Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us on this Saturday morning to work together to build a better future and to work towards adopting more electric vehicle technology. So my name is Winton Jones. I'm the Director of Sustainability at Thank you. Director of Sustainability at Urban Efficiency Group, proud partners for the village of Broadview. I'm going to bring up Mayor Katrina Thompson to just give us some opening remarks. So again, thank you all for being here, and let's welcome Mayor Katrina Thompson.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday. So I'm really excited about the conversation that's taking place. Those that's viewing online, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat and we'll get them to the speaker to get your questions and comments made or answered. I do want to thank Luke Barrows from ComEd, who will be the majority of the speaker for us today, as well as David Reynolds and Demetrius Winham from, is it Halo Smart Company? That's going to enlighten us on some opportunities that may be beneficial to Broadview residents and Broadview business stakeholders and those in our surrounding community. So I know we have some invited guests from Oak Park that's here today, so thank you for being here. Oak Park is a partner of ours in our C4 initiative, which is the Cross Climate Community Collaborative, and we do this work together. So thank you, Oak Park, for being present today. And I didn't introduce myself to you. Tell me who you are. And so we have Cook County in the building as well today, so thank you for being here. I appreciate that. So without further ado, and to respect everyone's time, we may get through this real quick today. It can't go past 12 o'clock, though. And I want to, thank our leadership for being here, our Director of Public Works, Matt Ames, who's taking the lead on the EV charging thing and all of those initiatives in the village as it relates to public spaces and having conversations with our residents, as well as our fire chief, Chief Bryant, our deputy chief fire, Martin, and our inspector, Marty. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to, I believe, Luke is the next guest speaker. So thank you all for being here.
All right, how do I go to the next, oh, you're up.
Yeah. A little switcheroo here. Quickly just want to show you all the agenda. So next slide, please. We're going to keep it straightforward. Obviously, we got our welcome out the way already. Discuss some of the village developments that have been happening in the village of Broadview, just over the course of time with the creation of C4, and then just the accomplishments that we've made across the way. A little background on Urban Efficiency Group, and a quick EV market overview, just some considerations I want to throw out there. Then I'll pass it over to Luke Burrows to talk about the ComEd Beneficial Electrification Plan that has EV incentives and rebates available for businesses that are public and private, as well as residents. A lot of opportunities for infrastructure development, as well as electric vehicle acquisition and rebates as well. Mayor Thompson so graciously brought up C4. I thought we'd play a quick video so you all could understand, the project, the initiative, where we started, and kind of how we're going forward with it. So, want to cue up the video, please?
Our project is called C4, Cross Community Climate Collaborative. The concept was birthed out of a relationship that I have with our village president in River Forest, Kathy Aducey, and Mayor Katrina Thompson of Broadview.
And the hope was, if we as mayors take a leadership role in bringing other mayors together to address climate change, then I think we can actually find solutions, not only individually, but collectively here in our own region.
Sector meetings.
We meet as an executive team every month with the partners that we have on our leadership board. And we are planning and strategically working with the other municipalities to keep them on task so that we meet all of our benchmarks, all of our goals and our objectives. whether it's renewable energy, whether it's healthy homes to protect children with asthma, or EV charging stations.
Necessarily engage.
C4 has tapped into Darnell Johnson and Gary Cunin. They are expert advisors on what direction we need to take for C4.
There really is a sense of urgency with this issue of climate, and also a huge issue around equity.
These communities that we're focusing on, they create a very diverse picture. We're looking at Black, brown, and white communities that have traditionally done things in silos, right? Not my problem, not my priority. Now we're at a place where they're understanding, no, it is our problem and it should be our priority.
Many of these communities have fewer resources. They don't have the staffing capacity to hire a sustainability coordinator or somebody to go after grants. So C4 is really intending to help support these communities at major projects.
It's going to take time, but we have to be intentional with the messaging and how we educate so people know how important it is. Listen, I'm talking about it every single day.
You know, we just don't want to miss I'm very excited and grateful to be receiving this award from the American Beverage Foundation for a Healthy America and the U.S. Conference of Mayors. This grant is going to allow us to engage more communities in working together to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Really great meeting, everybody. Send out the invitation.
We believe that this is a great start to hopefully what will be a very large impact to our communities.
Yeah, so this is from an award, obviously, but this is great work that we've done. So next slide, please. I'm huge on providing resources, so that's a blessing and a curse for the reader and those who have to work with me. Thank you, Mayor Thompson and Village of Broadview team for bearing with us. Overall, next slide, please. Overall, within the last 3-4 years, roughly, a lot has been done. The creation of C4. They signed the MOU in 2022. Back in 2022, they also declared this drive and commitment to EV adoption in real time. So we're currently working on a project with Cook County for EV development. I believe that's actually on Roosevelt Road. So it's nice to put that seed in the ground, but also to actually have it coming into fruition. Similarly, we've had EV adoption listening sessions or information sessions around residential adoption. We typically live stream these events, so I've shared that link in here as well. There will be an event feedback survey where you can request to get a copy of the deck. So obviously you are going to fill that out and request that copy. Additionally, the MMC, the Metropolitan's Mayor's Caucus, has their EV cohort that Mayor Thompson spoke about. I know Director Ames is working hard on that, building out EV policies and ordinances so that when we're ready to do this at a large scale, we have the implementation and legislation to support that. So many things, right, that's been going on. I want to say since November, we've been meeting with a special project team in Broadview for the Broadview Energy Plan. You see this Illinois EPA EECVG, a lot of acronyms. But basically, this grant is driven to create the planning for a holistic community Broadview energy plan. So that's incorporating solar, electric vehicle technology, electric school bus adoption, energy efficiency upgrades, all these conversations around electrification that are so essential to us actually moving forward and moving the needle in a good way. And then last but not least, Mayor Katrina Thompson was recently, or I should say, reappointed, because she was appointed before, to the chair of the National League of Cities Energy, Environment, and Natural Resources Federal Advocacy Committee. So it's not just Broadview, it's not just C4 that we're impacting the whole nation with the progress that we're making, and committed to actually sharing that information as we grow. We have the village staff here, they're here for if you have any additional questions. We'll open up for some Q&A later on, but we're pretty much an open book, so we look forward to talking more about developments and projects as we move forward. Next slide, please. Pivoting a little bit to Urban Efficiency Group and what we do specifically, we're a sustainability design firm. So we work with municipalities, helping them build their local sustainability teams, get into sustainability initiatives. And when we talk about sustainability, we consider it everything. Everything can lead back to sustainability in one way, shape, or form. I'll get more into that pretty soon here, but this is kind of the services that we offer, education awareness, hosting listening sessions, town halls, providing that quasi-technical assistance for different sustainability initiatives, actually building capacity at the local level, because obviously, not all communities, not all municipalities, not all organizations and entities know how to exactly go about building or engaging in EV adoption as a whole. So we try to be that buffer, quasi-technical assistance, but also connect you to resources that are the implementers for these programs and resources. That is the reason why we're here today. So we can connect you with Luke Burrows, but just providing that larger context for what we do and why we do it. Resource acquisition, obviously you heard about the grants that we acquired over our time and the implementation. That's the key part, because sustainability is about the ongoing, the continuity, the continuous development. And we can't hold up on that, especially in the new atmosphere and landscape. It's also important to point out the C4 adoption protocol on our right-hand side. That's how we engage majority of our sustainability initiatives, building a project team, building a roadmap and plan to engage and impact these efforts in a various amount of ways, and then performance. Ensuring that this work continues on ensures that we're meeting our targets and exceeding our goals to truly achieve sustainability solidarity. Next slide, please. So this is the framework that we actually operate out of. And when we talk about the system of sustainability, it is so essential because it incorporates every facet and aspect of society, from public works to the fire department to our building commissioners to the communications director. Everything that we do can be traced back to sustainability. Today's conversation is primarily on electric vehicle technology, so that actually hits majority of the system of sustainability. We're talking about public spaces and how they're being used. We're talking about prosperity, organizations finding ways to build revenue, which is also another, catalyst for workforce development in a brand new field. Health and well-being, obviously, we're taking care of our health by improving the air quality, and the benefits go on. We can have a sidebar if you ever want to go deep into the system of sustainability, but for the purposes of time, I'll hold off here. Next slide, please. And before I pass it off to Luke, I just wanted to do some high-level considerations. I have attached an EV market analysis that the village and Mayor Thompson graciously asked me for last year. So I finished it in January of 2024. So obviously a lot of changes have been made, and obviously new administration in place. So some things will change, but as long as we play our part and do our civic duty, engaging our congressional leaders, ensuring that we fight for what's rightfully ours, we can prevail and continue to grow in all these different ways. So legislation is a huge part. The bipartisan infrastructure law, Inflation Reduction Act, yes, they have been rolled back, but we have 90 days to fight for that right, to fight for those laws and that legislation. So I encourage all of you to do that, and I encourage us to build a coalition to ensure that these resources never go away, because it's so essential. It's a very similar conversation around funding, so I'm not going to double down on that. And actually, Luke has some resources that are available, so we thank God for that. Market growth and demand. I'm not going to belabor you all with too many statistics. Like I said, the market analysis that's attached and linked to the deck is 27 pages long. So just letting you know, for all that you want to discover about EV technology, you can check out that market analysis, and then my contact information is always available as well. We don't just connect you to the resources like Luke Burrows within Walker Miller Energy Services. Will work with you directly while you try to build that roadmap to EV adoption in real time. So I just want to throw this out there as, a resource to come back to. Luke is going to fill you with tons of different resources and insights from the ComEd Beneficial Electrification Plan. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to him.
Gotcha. Thank you. Good morning. Next slide, please. I want to make sure we're starting. Maybe 2 slides. Let's get to the, ComEd one. Thank you, Mayor Thompson. Thank you, Village of Broadview. Thank you, UEG and Winton, as well as all of you for coming out on a brisk Saturday morning. So happy to be here. I was here last year, I think in April, and not much has changed with the program, but a lot has changed in the world, and a lot has changed in terms of EV infrastructure in Illinois. So I'm happy to talk about the ComEd Beneficial Electrification Program. First, a little bit of background about who I am. As Winton mentioned, I work for a company called Walker Miller Energy Services. They're based in Detroit, energy efficiency company that was picked to be the implementation contractor by ComEd for their Beneficial Electrification Program, Plan 1. Plan 1 runs from beginning of 2024 to the end of this year, 2025. Next slide, please. Oh, okay, so we're missing a couple slides, but we'll make do. A little background on the program. First, before I talk about numbers, in 2021, the governor of Illinois signed into legislation the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, also known as CEJA, that enabled a lot of things in Illinois. But one of those goals, one of those ambitious goals from Governor Pritzker was 1 million electric vehicles on the road by 2030. So to do that, they told the largest utility in Illinois, ComEd, you need to provide something to benefit the ratepayers of your utility with an EV rebate, in the form of an EV rebate. That's BE Plan 1. And that goal was set out by ComEd, implemented, like I said, at the beginning of last year. It is to incentivize the installation of primarily EV chargers. As a lot of EV drivers know, the hardest part is typically finding a place to charge. So they put out a line item in every residential and commercial ComEd bill. Now it's a couple cents for most people that says ComEd Beneficial Electrification. That money goes for funding the program. So a question I've gotten a lot in the last couple months is this funding going away now with the upcoming administration? The answer is no. Our programs are ratepayer funded, and they are state legislation enabled. So they're not going anywhere. I'm hoping to hear within the next month about BE Plan 2, which will carry us into 2026, 27. No official news on that yet, but what I can say is that it is more than likely coming back for a Plan 2. The rebate amounts more than likely will lower. So that means that for the rest of 2025, we still have this pool of money to give away, meaning it is more advantageous to apply for the funding now. The rebates will only get lower. So let's talk about money. So there are 3 programs split between, 3 sub-programs, I should say, split between 2 programs, one for residential and one for commercial. If you have a ComEd bill, which I'm sure most people do, on your bill it'll say residential rate or a commercial rate. There's a couple rates to pick from both categories. But if you are a residential ratepayer, you are eligible for the residential program. And if you are a commercial ratepayer, eligible for the commercial or business and public sector, sometimes commercial and industry. Excuse me. In the residential program, it covers the installation of a charger at home. In the commercial program, it covers the installation of chargers on the make-ready side. I'll talk way more about that in a bit, as well as the purchase of actual electric vehicles. You can see the funding amounts in that 4th column there. Those numbers obviously have gone down since the beginning of the program, but there's still plenty of money in all pools. So what I would say is apply now, but I'll talk way more about how to get the money in a bit. One stipulation from the Illinois Commerce Commission when they told ComEd to make this BE plan was to set aside 56% of total budget program for LIEIEC communities. We were originally calling that select communities, but no one knows what the hell that is. That's not descriptive enough. So we made it LIEIEC. I don't know, do you guys know what a select is, a select community? And that stands for low income or equity investment eligible community. So there's 2 kind of geographic maps. The LI map, the low-income map, was segmented by the Illinois Solar for All Coalition, and that map runs over into the Equity Investment Eligible Community map from the Illinois EPA, kind of an arbitrary designation of communities or areas of Illinois that have historically been less behind in the clean energy investments. So they said, okay, we're going to put more money into these areas. Those maps are pretty congruous, but not 100%. So I encourage people to look at both maps when determining their eligibility. The reason it's important is because it's 50% higher rebate, 50% more money. Broadview, I looked it up before coming today, is entirely an EIEC LI area. So you guys are eligible, you're a select customer eligible for the higher rebate amounts, both your residents and your commercial businesses. Next slide, please. Oh, and this is kind of just stipulating what I said earlier. The two primary ways to be eligible is to reside in the LI area. You can also, as a residential customer, not a commercial customer, as a residential customer, you can prove you're a low income by just proving your income, by submitting pay stubs, to show that your household is within 80% of the median income for Illinois. But for commercial, that's obviously not an option, so we have the LI map for that. The third way to be eligible, that's not listed on the screen here, but it's kind of a combination of the two, is to self-attest that your vehicles, these electric vehicles that you'd be purchasing, would do 50% or more of their driving primarily within LI EIC areas. We are worried about where the carbon is being removed from, and cars, unlike houses, are mobile, they travel. So we're looking at where they do the majority of their travel for. For a police district, that might be, where the police districts are driving. I work with Oak Park, for example, and their police district does not reside specifically within an LIEIC area, but those cars go everywhere. So we were able to determine their select eligibility by saying, okay, 50% of those squad cars are driving within LIEIC areas, West Chicago, west suburbs. So that's not listed on the screen particularly. It's kind of confusing. If you are not entirely sure whether you, your commercial business, or your residents are eligible for the LIEC income amount or rebate amount, please reach out to me. I have my card here, and I'll help you figure it out. Next slide, please. So we'll first start with the residential program. This is the installation of a level 2 charger at home. First of all, a quick question. Who here drives an electric vehicle personally? Fantastic. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about electric vehicles first, some background. There's a couple different types of EVs, and there's a couple different types of EV chargers. The most common type of EV you've probably heard of is a hybrid, right? The hybrid vehicle. There's also the plug-in hybrid, which is a battery electric vehicle that has the ability to charge a battery, but also has an engine. It's kind of got the guts of both types of cars. And then there's the third type, which is the fully battery electric vehicle. And this is the vehicle that is eligible for our program. We do not incentivize the purchase of hybrids or plug-in hybrids, only battery electric vehicles. So sorry, I know Mayor Thompson might try to have a hybrid. I'm sorry, yeah. But on the charger side, there are 3 types of chargers as well. Level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 3, the fancy word for that is DCFC, or direct current fast charger. That's like the Tesla superchargers. You've seen those fancy Tesla chargers. Those are DC. So that just means with each level, they get a lot faster and a lot more expensive. A level 1 charger is, I see one right there. That's a wall outlet. You use to charge your phone, your hair dryer. A level 2, and you can charge your car with that, believe it or not, but it'll take you about 24 hours. A level 2 charger can charge your car, typical passenger EV, in about 6 to 8 hours. Which is great for most people who are charging their car at night, driving it during the day. And that's the typical residential charger. So for our program, we incentivize the installation of a level 2 charger at the home by covering these amounts written on the screen. The one on the left side that says base, I have to correct. As of this year, January 1st, 2025, the base funding has been exhausted, but we wanted to make all ComEd customers still eligible for some money. So we moved some money from the select pool into the base pool. That funding amount is now $1,000. So if you go on the ComEd website, every ComEd residential account is still eligible for a EV rebate, but it's only at $1,000 for base. For the LIEIC residential customers, it is $3,750. Now you might be asking, how much does an EV charger cost? It varies, if you can imagine. I cannot speak for any make, model, or brand. I have to be agnostic in that regard. But they start around $500, kind of creeping up to $1,500 for the residential level. Then you have to consider the cost of make-ready work to make your house ready. You might need a new panel, you might need conduit laid, whatever, as well as obviously the cost of installation. No self-installs for this program. So with all that said, you're looking at around between $1,500 and usually $2,500, depending on how old your house is, depending on what charger you go with, and depending on what contractor you work with. So for our program, you can see for the select pool at least, it will get you there. It will cover 100% of your costs. I cannot say this is a free charger, but at the end of the day, it is for most customers a net zero cost. So we are really trying to push this, especially in EI or LI, EIC communities, because of the fact it covers your entire costs. Next slide, please. So how to apply? The important thing to note is that bold bullet point at the bottom there. For all residential accounts, you must be on an hourly pricing rate. So what that means is when you pay your ComEd bill, the price of a kilowatt hour will stay the same. Right now it's about 13 cents a kilowatt hour. When you switch to an hourly pricing program, the price of a kilowatt hour will fluctuate throughout the day depending on the market demand for electricity. When is the market demand for electricity highest? In the middle of the day, usually between Monday and Friday. When everyone's out and doing work, the peak capacity of ComEd's grid rises, and thus the cost of a kilowatt hour will rise on this hourly pricing. But at night, when not as many people are using electricity and the market demand is lower, your price of a kilowatt hour will lower. So for most EV drivers, what that means is, one, they're not paying for gas because they drive an EV. Two, they're charging at night when the price of electricity is a lot lower, and they're saving money because we lower their bill at night when they're charging. So I cannot guarantee that your ComEd bill will go up or down by switching to an hourly pricing rate, but the statistics have shown us in the first few years of people switching to hourly pricing that 96% of all residential accounts do end up saving money on an annual basis. Hour to hour, no, but it'll fluctuate, like I said. But on an annual basis, your bill, like I said, most people see it go down. For the commercial program, not a requirement, but it is for the residential. A couple other things to point out here is you apply for this as a rebate, not a grant. It is after you have paid everything off in full, you've installed the charger, the green light has come on, it is energized, meaning it's connected to ComEd's grid, has the ability to charge, then you can apply for the rebate within 90 days of that energization date. Another thing to point out that is, I don't think written explicitly on the side, but there's no self-installs allowed. We kind of changed that rule last year after some quality assurance issues came up. So you do have to work with an installer. We have a list of certified installers I'll talk about at the end of the presentation, but one thing to look at when you're picking your electrician, they must be ICC, which is the Illinois Commerce Commission, ICC EV Charging Station Installer Certified. The ICC has a list of utility certifications ranging from heat pump installation to energy efficiency. One of their newer ones is EV install. So make sure they have that certification before you go with that contractor. There's a list on the ICC's website, and like I said, we have our own list that I'll recommend, but you do have to work with one of them to do your install. There's about 300 of those contractors in Illinois right now, and about 70 of them are on our list. And that's the majority of it. Like I said, check your eligibility for the select versus base before applying. Switch to your hourly rate, or at least start that process before applying. That is required. You can't do that in hindsight afterwards. In addition, sorry, one thing I forgot about the hourly rate, has to be for a minimum of 3 years. We don't want people joining the hourly rate and then immediately moving to Iowa or something. So it has to be for a home you own, hourly rate for 3 years. Next slide, please. Excuse me, I'm going to grab some water. Okay, so the next program is for the business and public sector applicants, and the first sub-program covers the actual purchase of electric vehicles. LDV stands for light-duty vehicle, medium-duty vehicle, and heavy-duty vehicle. We also cover transit buses, school buses, anything that is road vehicle registered here in Illinois and registered to a commercial account, I should say. This is not for personal use, cannot be a personal car, and cannot be a residential account associated with the car, and has to be fully battery electric. Like I said, no hybrids, no plug-in hybrids. So it covers the gamut. Like you can think of the typical Ford Lightning or Nissan Leaf. You can also think of garbage trucks. I've seen now Elgin, which is not the city, but the manufacturer, has a fleet of sweepers now that are fully battery electric. I've seen cement mixers that are fully battery electric. I've seen forklifts. Those aren't road legal technically, so no, not eligible for our program. But there's really, the sky's the limit, and every day there are new battery electric vehicles coming onto the market, both in the heavy duty and medium duty category. You'd be surprised how many vehicles are now running on fully electricity. So again, the rebate amounts are listed on the screen there. They start at $5,000 for the base light duty vehicle and go up to $180K for a select school bus. I'm currently working with a bunch of school districts right now who are getting EPA money, and that clean school bus grant is a lot, let me just say. I don't know if it'll be here next year, but it is here this year, and all of our programs are stackable with that money. So if your school districts are looking to buy some electric school buses, they should do so like yesterday and get in that line for manufacturing because it's long. But it is totally doable. It's very possible, and we're seeing a lot of school districts to make that move now. It's very exciting to me, at least, because I think that's the ideal EV. School buses kind of have a large, long load time where they're not moving a lot. They don't have a long range. They're usually going on very predictable routes, and they're able to charge for that, middle of the day as well as at night when they're not being used. Sorry, that's my tangent on school buses. Thanks, everyone. Next slide, please. So how you apply for the EV rebate program, there are two ways. We kind of added a second way. The first way is your normal post-purchase rebate. You get delivery of the car, you pay for it full, and then you get the rebate within 90 days of it getting delivered to your premise address. Your premise address is the address listed on your ComEd account, on your ComEd bill. And so that's the typical rebate way. Excuse me. But the other way is to get that rebate at the point of sale. An immediate rebate, instant discount is what we call it. So to do that, you have to work with one of our participating dealers or OEMs, manufacturers. We have a network of about, I want to say 80, and that dealership list is growing every week. If there's a dealer you spot where you can get a good cost on an EV there and they're not within our network, reach out to me and we can get them added. They have to watch a 45 training minute video and sign a couple forms, but that's it. So we can get 45-minute video, sorry. It's like a quick training we do with them. They got to sign some documents. They got to figure out how to fill out a voucher, essentially. So how that process works is you would go to a dealership or a manufacturer and say, hey, I want to buy 10 Ford Lightnings, and here's the price that you have for them. Here's the ComEd discount minus them. The dealership would fill out a purchase order for you with the ComEd rebate listed as a line item to you. So minus $75,000 ComEd EV rebate. You would pay that cost, get the cars manufactured and delivered. Once they're delivered to you, then the dealership applies for a reservation to recoup that $75,000 on their end. So it's a kind of lower risk for the customer, especially with public funds. I know that can get messy. So please, explore both options, whether you're going the post-purchase or the point-of-sale route. We are willing to work with you on like a number of ways. If you find a manufacturer you like that's not within our network too, send their salesperson over to me. We can get them added. Next slide, please. Excuse me. And the last program is definitely the most complicated, but it's the most exciting to me, and I think it's the most necessary. It is the Make Ready Business and Public Sector program. Can you actually go to the next slide for just a minute, please? I'll ask you to go back a slide in a second. Thank you. So I want to first explain what is Make Ready infrastructure. When you install an EVSC or an EV support equipment, which is the charger, it obviously has a greater draw on the grid than your average level 1 charger. So those chargers need infrastructure upgrades, typically on the customer side of the meter as well as the utility side. We cover all of that make-ready work. This rebate cannot be applied towards the actual cost of the chargers themselves, any type of mounting pedestal on the ground or wall-based, whatever, we don't pay for that, nor the installation of the chargers. But for most EV charging projects, the make-ready costs are the vast majority of them. So we cover all of that, going from the transformer that that energizes the charger up to the conduit that plugs into the charger itself. So that can range from mounting or from panels upgrades, from the transformer upgrades, circuit, the actual labor involved in building all that stuff, trenching, boring, permits that you might have to get to make ready that site. It really runs a large scope of things. This crude diagram is not all-encompassing, and even on our website, we have a list of make-ready eligible costs that is not all-encompassing. I've seen other things that could be very justifiably a make-ready cost, so kind of work with us and work with your contractor when deliberating those things. Can you go back one slide, please? Perfect, thank you. So now going back to the actual rebate amounts, these are determined in a number of ways. First, we looked at whether you're a base or select customer, obviously. But then we also look at what the charging array consists of, whether it's level 2 or level 3. If you guys remember earlier, I said level 3 is a lot faster, but also a lot more expensive. So you can see the rebate amounts kind of jump up another level when you go to level 3. So for a level 2 charger, we cap the rebate at 10 ports. Not 10 chargers, but 10 ports. There's lots of chargers out there that now run dual port. In fact, the majority of them do, to ensure that more people can charge, and you can split that capacity between 2 cars at once. And for those 10 ports, we cover 5,300-ish for base customers and 8,000 for select. So a max rebate of $80,000 essentially for a single project. There is no entity cap, meaning one government, one business, one commercial ComEd account could apply for a number of projects, and we've seen that across the board with some of those big 3PL companies and big, big box service providers. So we encourage you to keep applying for as many projects as you want to build out. On the DCFC side, that money goes up, is actually parsed out by the total capacity of the charging array. So it is priced out per kilowatt for a base customer, that's $667 per kilowatt, and for a select customer, it's $1,000. The one requirement for this is that your DC fast charger must be a minimum of 50 kW. There are some sub 50 kW DC fast chargers out there, so when you're looking at the spec sheet, just kind of keep that in mind. Has to be a minimum of 50 kW to be considered a DC fast charger for our program. It will not be ineligible from the program if you do not have that requirement, but it'll just be processed as a level 2 charger instead, which is obviously less money. And then that amount actually runs up to a maximum of $500,000, $500,000. Again, that's just per project. You can apply for multiple projects if you have multiple DC fast chargers. I'm currently working with the city of Darien, who is doing just that, applying for, I think, 7 or 8 DCFCs in their Brookhaven Plaza, as well as at their Village Hall. So the sky is the limit with however much you want to build. We can get you the money. And yeah, I think that's all for that slide. 14 million in the select pool, 6 million in the base. Next slide, please, or 2 slides. Perfect. So how you apply, very similar to the residential program. You get your project built out. Then after it's energized, you have 90 days to get the rebate. This is a little bit more complicated, especially for the DC fast charging side. You will more than likely have to work with ComEd to set up a new service line for your EV chargers, depending on the capacity of your site. So that's where the make-ready side comes in. When you are installing EV chargers, that usually requires a new ComEd account, a new service line, new panel, sometimes even a new transformer. So those things are all costly and timely. So I encourage you, if you are building out any chargers that require capacity upgrades on ComEd's side of the meter, work with us sooner than later. The line for new business is long, and it's probably not getting any shorter with all of the EV projects we see coming up on the grid this year. So I can kind of relay you to the right person if you're in the new business queue and you're having a slow time, but we can't guarantee, short lead times. We want to guarantee that your project's built out before the end of this year, like I said, to guarantee you that higher funding amount. And then you can reserve the funds. As you guys probably can imagine, these projects take a while to build out, not just a couple days, not just a couple weeks, but usually many months. So you can reserve the funds up to 6 months in advance, So usually what I recommend people is once you have that new business approval, that new service line installed, and you're ready for your contractor to do their side of the building, do all the make-ready work on their side of the meter, that's when I would recommend reserving the funds. So you have your site design done, your contractor selected, and ComEd New Business has given you the thumbs up. That's when I would recommend going forward, approving everything and reserving the funds, guaranteeing you it's there by the time your project is done. You will not receive the funds until the project is finished and paid for, but they will be there for you so that you're not stuck dead in the water with all these EV chargers built and no money. And yeah, next slide, please. A couple other tools I want to highlight that we have at your disposal. This is a great opportunity for all business and public sector customers, a fleet assessment. This is where ComEd engineers, their names are Ed and Raul, great guys, super nice and smart, will come out and do a free fleet assessment of your fleet. This is a free offering for all commercial ComEd customers. They will look at your current fleet, whether they are ICE or maybe hybrid vehicles, and help you determine a cost analysis, an environmental analysis, and a financial analysis of converting those to electric over the next service cycle of those vehicles, whether it's 1 year, 5, 10, 15 years. They'll also help you identify charging infrastructure needs. So if they do say, hey, we want to convert all of the fire department's vehicles to electric, where are we going to charge those vehicles? They'll help you determine that. They'll go through your site and give you recommendations on how many chargers you need, where to place them, and what your total lead times might be. And then they'll also help you identify funding resources. The first funding resource they'll identify is the ComEd EV rebate, obviously. But then the second and third, they will help you identify other state and federal, maybe even some municipal grants that you're eligible for to get your overall cost down even more. These are stackable grants. Our rebate is stackable with all the other grants I mentioned out there. So I encourage you to look across the market for those to get your bottom line down even further. I want to say this one more time. This is a free service. We really are trying to push this one this year because last year we didn't see a lot of uptake with it, and it's a wasted resource. We want people just who are interested in converting any of their fleets to electric, whether you have one vehicle in your fleet or 100, we can make that an easier decision backed by data. Next slide, please. Okay, so one thing that we offer on both the residential and the commercial side is our EV service provider network. I mentioned earlier that all of the contractors who do the EV installs must have that ICC certification component. We have signed on about 60 to 70 of those guys into our network. They have gotten training from us obviously on how to do the installs in conjunction with ComEd's infrastructure and rules and regulations, but also they have the option of handing off the rebate to themselves, reassigning the rebate to themselves. And what that means is, similar to the dealership network I mentioned earlier, you can now get the rebate at the point of purchase when you pay your contractor rather than paying them 100% of the costs and getting it months and months later. They can take on that risk of getting the rebate and reassign the rebate to themselves so that you get that rebate at the point of pay, of purchase from your contractor. So let's say you're eligible for $50,000 make-ready rebate. They would put on their invoice to you, minus $50,000 ComEd make-ready rebate. You pay that much less. The project still gets built out like normal. And then after the project is energized, the EVSP would apply for a rebate to recoup on the back end. Works the same way as the dealership, but it's for the infrastructure side instead of the electric vehicle side. I cannot stress enough how much I would recommend working with an EVSP versus just your favorite pet electrician. One, they have to have the ICC certification, but two, the rest of those guys don't know the rules and regulations, the terms and conditions of our program as well as our guys do. So you're putting yourself at risk by not being eligible. If they mess up one little thing or don't, cross a certain T or dot an I, they might be killing your eligibility for the program. So work with one of our guys to ensure that you are eligible. Yes, next slide, please. And that's everything. Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm going to be here for questions. Wait.
I have a question. First, can you give your contact information to those that's listening?
Yeah, I have cards. It's not gonna be on the slides, but I can, hand it out, or maybe Winston can.
Yeah, so also in the event feedback survey form, you can request a follow-up from Luke and myself for everything that we discussed today.
And then the other question, do ComEd fund the charging stations prior to purchasing the electric vehicle? So say I'm not ready to purchase the vehicle today, but because of the rebates, would I qualify to get the charging station at my home?
For the residential?
Yes.
And honestly, for both sides, you don't have to have an EV. You don't need to have a, you don't actually need an electric vehicle to technically be eligible for the program. They are three separate pools of money, really. There's the residential program for the installation of a charger. That covers everything, the make-ready, the cost of the charger itself, and the cost of installation. There's the EV program, which covers just the cost of the vehicles, and then there's the make-ready program, which for the commercial side just covers the make-ready costs, no chargers, no installation. But you do not need to have the vehicles at any time to be eligible for the residential or the make-ready program.
Okay, that's good to know. The other question I have, because cars change, the make, every year they have an upgrade. Will the charger change as upgrades go with vehicles? So what's the anticipation? So I get this charger today, the vehicle I'm considering may change the port.
Yes, the ports are the most thing, and Tesla had their own port, right? Tesla had their own fancy port that was only proprietary to Tesla vehicles, and all other EVs were kind of running off what's called the JCS 177 port. It's this industry standard, and now Tesla has switched over. So we're seeing pretty much every level 2 port is running off of that specific port right now. I wouldn't worry about it, but it is something that I guess is possible. I can't guarantee it's not going to happen. You would only have to pay for the new port. You wouldn't have to pay for a new charger in that case, right? And maybe you have to switch networks. Every EV charger has an EV network. They're not one-to-one, so you might have heard of ChargePoint. They are a charging company that doesn't manufacture, but they sell chargers, and they also are a large EV network. So you might have to change networks depending on.
And so with the assessment, you all do the assessment on the residential side as well?
Oh, no, not on the residential side, sorry. The residential side, if you are a resident looking to apply, what I would recommend is getting in touch with an EV service provider. They are kind of your assessment. They'll give you a quote. They'll tell you how much it will cost to install this charger. There is no rebate for a residential customer to get an electric vehicle, unfortunately, not with ComEd at least. There's one with the IRS. They have a tax credit, and there's I think Cook County might have one at some point, right? Yeah. Do you know?
I want to say, I think the MMC just came out with one this year as well, or I say renewing that program. So there are these incentives and rebates in different pockets, and I guess that's what I appreciate so much about this program is that it's stackable, because it's not going to be just one resource that's going to provide the way, especially now. So we have to find all those pockets and then collaborate for those developments as well.
And the assessment, municipalities qualify for assessments as well?
100%. As long as you have a commercial ComEd account, which I'm guessing this building alone does, you can be eligible for the program. We should definitely be in talks with that. I can get you a meeting with Raul next week if you'd like, and they can. Perfect, great. Which gentleman, sorry? Okay. Perfect. Okay, amazing. Okay.
Any other questions?
Good morning. My name is Demetrius. I'm asking, what does it take to be a part of your ICC EV network?
The EV SP network, you have to have a minimum of 5 EV installs under your belt, as well as be ICC certified. Other than that, there's like I think 1 day of training you go through, and a couple other things. I can connect you with Colleen Spaperi, who's the manager of that network. If you have an ICC certified contractor you're thinking of, we would love to get them added to the network.
Okay, we'll talk before we leave today.
Perfect, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions online?
Forgot about I forgot about online.
Yeah, I knew they were there, but we don't have any questions. So if there aren't any other thoughts, considerations, you want to close this out, Mayor?
Thank you all.
Thank you, Luke and Winton. So thank you, Luke and Winton, for the presentation this morning and for all of the participants that viewed us online as well as in person this morning. We are truly grateful for the conversation. I think a lot was learned. I learned some things today in the presentation, so thank you. Thank you to Cook County for always looking out for Broadview to make sure that we are always in the loop as when we talk about sustainability and what's best for Broadview. So with that being said, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. And thank you all for coming out. So, and our viewers, thank you all for participating, Oak Park and everybody in the room. We got a lot of work to do, and let's get it done together. God bless you. Events that's coming up. We will have some update community conversations as it relates to environmental sustainability, not just for the Village of Broadview, but for our C4 network. So just stay alert to that. I think when we last spoke, we said that we would re-engage after April 1st. So just be out on the look, but I know some communities are still having conversations as it relates to this. Next month, we'll have a conversation regarding the environmental sustainability because we will be releasing our comprehensive plan, which includes a lot of this work. Okay, so thank you. Yes, sir.
So can I make a comment on partner events as well?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'm Max. I'm with Cook County. Thanks everyone for being here. If folks hadn't heard, we are releasing an EJ policy for the county to understand more what we can do to support those communities in need. We have a couple of town halls coming up this week, 2 virtually and 1 in Maywood, I believe. So if folks are interested in that, I encourage them to go to our website, Cook County il.gov, and look at the EJ Environmental Justice page. For those town halls, we'd love some feedback, ways to get more EVs out to communities in need especially, and just supporting all the work we want to do to make it as equitable for the county as possible. If folks have questions, let me know, but thank you.
Thank you for that information. If you can be so kind to email that to us and we can blast that out to the residents that may want to take part in that. I know it was a survey that came out maybe a couple of weeks ago on where we were. I don't know what the outcomes, the results are probably still coming in, but I also want to let the residents know that Broadview, we are in an EV cohort with the Mayor's Metropolitan Caucus right now, so Director Ames is taking the lead on that so that we can adopt our own policies and procedures as it relates to EV charging station and what that means to us in this environment, and even the village is considering bringing EV vehicles in our fleet. So that's why I asked about the assessment, because we need to assess, because we had some good dialogue a couple of weeks ago about EV in the municipal lot. And so thank you for that. So we need to do that so we are doing our jobs the right way. Any other comment or questions you all may have? Well, we got, do they do fire engines with EV? Do they have electrical fire engines? So the fire department don't even think about it, we just gave you an engine.
Yeah, we're going to get there. For all of our online listeners and as well as everyone here, please scan the QR code and fill out the event feedback survey form. That is how you will receive a copy of the presentation deck and get in contact with myself and Luke Burrows from Walker Miller. So again, thank you all so much. Thank you, Mayor Thompson and the village. I think we learned a lot, and let's continue to grow.
Thank you, Winton and Urban City Efficiency Group.